Once upon a time, in a quiet town near the coast, there lived a man named Marcus. Marcus was a thoughtful person who had always been interested in philosophy, especially Stoicism. He had read the works of Seneca and Epictetus, and he tried his best to live by their teachings. But there was one area where Marcus struggled: relationships. Marcus had a good friend named Lucius. The two had known each other for many years, and they shared many memories. But lately, Lucius had been acting differently. He was often impatient, quick to anger, and sometimes even rude. Marcus didn't understand why his friend had changed. He felt hurt and confused. One evening, after a particularly difficult conversation with Lucius, Marcus sat alone in his small garden, staring at the stars. He wondered how a Stoic should handle such a situation. That night, Marcus decided to write a letter to Seneca, even though he knew Seneca had been gone for centuries. Writing helped him think clearly. He began, "I, dear Seneca, how does a Stoic keep a calm mind when a close friend becomes difficult? How do we control our emotions when others act in ways that upset us?" As Marcus wrote, he remembered one of Seneca's teachings. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. He realized that part of his pain came not from Lucius' actions alone, but from his... Marcus had imagined that Lucius no longer valued their friendship. He had told himself stories about why Lucius was acting this way, and those stories made him suffer. The next day, Marcus made a decision. Instead of reacting with anger or sadness, he would approach the situation with Stoic discipline. He reminded himself of another lesson. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus knew he couldn't control Lucius, but he could control his own reactions. When he met Lucius again, Marcus chose to listen without judgment. He asked questions instead of making accusations. "Lucius, I've noticed you've seemed upset lately. Is there something troubling you?" At first, Lucius was defensive, but Marcus remained calm. He did not interrupt or argue. Slowly, Lucius began to open up. It turned out that Lucius was going through a hard time. His work was demanding, and he was struggling with family problems. He hadn't meant to take his frustrations out on Marcus. He was simply carrying a heavy burden and didn't know how to ask for help. Marcus felt his anger dissolve. Instead, he felt compassion. This experience taught Marcus an important lesson about Stoicism in relationships. It was not about suppressing emotions or pretending not to care. It was about understanding what was within his control and what was not. He couldn't force Lucius to behave differently, but he could choose how he responded. He could offer patience instead of anger, understanding instead of blame. Over time, Marcus applied this wisdom to all his relationships, with his family, his colleagues, even strangers. When someone was unkind, he asked himself, "Is this person acting this way because of me, or because of their own struggles?" Most of the time, he realized their behavior had little to do with him. People act based on their own fears, pains, and misunderstandings. A Stoic mind does not take things personally. There was another important lesson Marcus learned: detachment. Stoicism does not mean we should not care about others. It means we should not let their actions dictate our peace. Marcus still valued his friendship with Lucius, but he no longer allowed Lucius' moods to disturb his own calm. He cared without clinging. One evening, as Marcus walked along the beach, he thought about how much his perspective had changed. The waves crashed against the shore, relentless and uncontrollable, much like the actions of other people. But the sand remained steady, unmoved by the force of the water. Marcus wanted to be like the sand, firm in his own peace, no matter how turbulent the world around him became. He wrote another letter to Seneca. "Gay, thank you for teaching me that the key to a Stoic mind in relationships is not in changing others, but in mastering myself. When I accept that people will act as they will, and that my only duty is to respond with virtue, I find a freedom I never knew before. From that day forward, Marcus carried this lesson in his heart. He knew that relationships would always bring challenges, but with a Stoic mind, he could face them with wisdom, patience, and inner strength. And so his life became not easier, but clearer, guided not by the chaos of others, but by the quiet power of his own reason. The end.